Entitled Family thinks the store after closing is their family reunion pavilion. So it's a Sunday night like 2 months ago and I'm a cashier at a retail store. I won't name the store, but basically we sell prepackaged food, home decor, furniture, kitchen bath stuff, and alcohol. We always do 3 announcements over the intercom before we close. One at 10 minutes to close, one at 5 minutes to close, and one at closing time. Unfortunately, my managers are not allowed to kick anyone out until 10 minutes after, which is the dumbest rule on the planet from corporate who doesn't care about us. So we've made our announcement, and this big family, who I presume is an extended family due to multiple adults of similar ages with their kids, is hamming it up in the alcohol section of the store, just chatting. Having their family reunion basically, and not even shopping. They take forever to leave, and legit all of us are giving them the evil eye. Then, one of them decides to buy something, so here's my time for revenge. I only work register, and I have a philosophy of reward stop at closing time, you don't get rewarded for being stupid. This mom buys her stupid little wine glasses, and I deliberately don't ask her if she has rewards. I hit the total and skip the rewards section, and she goes, "Can I put my number in?" And I lie and say, "Whoops, I can't go back to that screen." She gets mad because I skipped rewards, and I said, "Well, we closed 10 minutes ago, and our system automatically shuts off rewards at closing time." She believed me, so no rewards points for her, and no $5 reward for being a jerk. Get wrecked. Moral of the story is, don't overstay your welcome. We work hard, are tired, and just want to go home. I just feel like if I'm ever planning a family reunion for some reason, I would never pick to just go hang out in the alcohol section of a department store. You know what I'm saying? Like, what a bizarre place to have it, especially at closing time. Yeah, I don't blame you for trying to make sure she didn't get her rewards. A little mean-spirited. But at the same time, staying after closing and forcing the staff to just stand around and listen to your family reunion is definitely also a little bit mean-spirited. So in the general trade-off of things, I'm pretty sure your karma balanced out. What's going on, guys? It's your boy Scrubby here, back again with another Entitled Parents video. You guys tend to really love these, so I figured I would make another one for y'all to enjoy. So without further ado, let's get right into it and press the like button, otherwise you're gonna encounter 87 entitled parents a day. A few completely reasonable requests. I'm a school administrator. We have an academic awards ceremony at the end of the school year. And it's pretty typical stuff. The top performers in each subject, kids who grew the most in each subject, and all the kids who met reading goals, that type of stuff. The school admin team calls parents and families in advance so that those who can attend can come and attend the ceremony. We're holding it outside again this year for COVID safety, and I've worked out the date and time of the ceremony with the other schools who share the outdoor space, the district transportation team with our facility staff who's setting up the chairs and the speakers, etc. We work primarily with low-income students and know that a lot of parents and family members are unable to take off work or arrange transportation to get to the ceremony. We try to make it easier for parents by paying to run our most used bus routes before and after the ceremony just for parents who need transportation. Live streaming the event on our parents' Facebook group and school's YouTube channel for parents to watch remotely, and share the video on our school's website and social media for parents who can only watch after it's done. I shared all of that, so it's clear we put a decent amount of thought into parents and family access. One of the parents I called was very upset he would not be able to make the ceremony because he has to work. I apologized and shared the other options we had for him and offered to call another family member who might want to attend. A lot of times grandparents, older siblings, etc. will come instead. He asked if the child's mother was going to attend, and I had left her a message because they share custody. The dad gets the kids on the weekends, so our policy and legal obligation is to share all information with both custodial parents, unless one parent presents us with the new custody agreement or court order. I informed him that I was notifying all parents and guardians of students receiving awards. And it was like a switch flipped. He starts yelling at me about how she shouldn't be able to attend if he couldn't also attend the event. I lent him rant a bit because I know he was just disappointed. Custody arrangements could be stressful, and I'd rather parents yell at me than call up and yell at my teachers. But when he asked outright if I could tell her not to come, I told him that legally I could not, and again tried to talk up the video streaming options. He stopped yelling, but interrupted me calmly and firmly to say that the date was unacceptable and the only fair thing to do would be to move the whole awards ceremony to a time he could attend. I can't stress enough how much this guy's tone expressed how obvious and clear he thought this solution would be to anyone who heard it. I'll admit I paused for a second because I was a bit taken aback by the request. I apologized again and explained that it was too late to move the ceremony, and unfortunately there was no time that would work for every single parent of the 100 students receiving awards. He immediately started screaming again, and after I was told that I took pleasure in torturing students' families and called up 3 times with no sign of the rant dying down, I pulled out the teacher voice I only use on the most verbally abusive parents and said, "This conversation's no longer productive. Please call me back when you're ready to talk." I thought that would be the end of it and shot off a message on staff Slack so teachers and other staff members would know what was up if this guy tried to bring it up with anyone else. I also put him on the list of parents who need me in parent-teacher conferences and copied in on all teacher communication. Since he'd shown he has no problem berating a staff member, I never want one of my teachers to be talked to the way he had talked to me. He called my office about an hour later and I took the call and he sounded much calmer, although he didn't apologize, which was fine because I'm pretty used to that from parents and I can pretend it didn't happen if it means we can move forward. He said he understood that I was refusing to move the awards ceremony and that I needed to help him get out of work so he could be there for his kid. I've written notes for parents before so they can get shift changes or time off, especially when we were doing remote learning days for COVID, so it's not foreign to me. At this point, I'm happy it sounds like he's being more reasonable, so I tell him I'd be happy to send home an official-looking letter with the school letterhead and whatnot about the awards ceremony for him to show his boss. That sets him off again because he's his own boss, and how dare I suggest he's working for someone else. He's making his fortune his way, and I'm doing it without the inflexibility of a traditional corporate or retail structure. I don't say anything because I do not think I could have avoided snarkily pointing out that if his schedule was so flexible, he'd be able to attend the awards ceremony and wouldn't need to have this conversation. He winds down by telling me that I need to reach out to the potential client he's scheduled to meet with during the ceremony, and I need to explain that I'm forcing him to attend this mandatory ceremony and should also imply he will lose custody if he doesn't attend. I tell him that I'm not comfortable making that call and I'm definitely not comfortable lying, and at this point I have him on speakerphone and my assistant has joined me and we're both wondering how much more off the rails his demands are going to get, and he doesn't disappoint. He tells me that I'm forcing him to miss out on this potential big client who is definitely going to invest in NFTs through him and that I should make up for it by having the school invest in NFTs. We can make an NFT of the school mascot, maybe could even get kids NFTs as their rewards. I apologized and told him I couldn't use public education funding to buy NFTs, but I wished him a lot of luck in his business venture. And didn't pause before telling him that I had to jump into another meeting, have a great day, bye, before he could out-crazy himself again. Hopefully that's the end of it and he will not have any new demands when he picks up his kid tomorrow. I don't know, I think the dad was being reasonable. Just move the entire ceremony, change all the bus lines, get the entire transportation district to shift all the buses to a new time just so one person can attend. What's wrong with that? All jokes aside, imagine actually saying that out loud and not realizing that that's just way too much work and no one's gonna do that for you. You don't understand, I'm a big businessman, alright? I do a lot of NFT stuff. In fact, I'm skipping a client meeting with Bill Gates to come to this meeting. He would have invested at least $80 billion into my NFTs. So I'm gonna need the school's budget for the next 15 years to dump into NFTs instead. Let's be honest, American education is already garbage, so you might as well gamble the future to maybe get a moonshot. Nothing wrong with gambling on NFTs with taxpayer money. Entitled Parent and the Diaper Bomb. This is a tale of woe that takes place back when I was 16. It was my second summer ever being a lifeguard, and it was the weekend after 4th of July, so the pool was packed since it was mid-afternoon in the middle of July in Texas. At the pool I worked at that summer, there was a large section that was about 5 or 7 feet deep for adults and older kids, and connected to it was a little play area with 1 to 3 feet deep water with a complete splash pad and mini waterfall. It was a pretty sick setup for the kids, if I do say so myself. I was off stand and at our check-in desk, and we had a family come in. It was an entitled mom, entitled dad, and their 3 kids, probably about 3, 7, and 10 if I had to guess. And when they walked in, I did my usual, "Hi, welcome to the pool. Can I get you to sign in, please?" The mom took her kids and walked to a seating area while the dad signed them in, which, you know, so far so good, a normal interaction. About 10 minutes later, the whistle for adult Adult Swim Blue. I had gone through a rotation and was ready to be back on break. An Adult Swim had passed and I went on my last rotation for 20 minutes. And then I was off. While walking back to the check-in desk, I smelled something foul, turned around, and tried to find the origin of the smell and fearing the worst. As I was walking, the smell got stronger and it became obvious that the smell was of a certain bodily excrement of the number 2 variety. I walked up to one of my coworkers who was roving the kitty area and I asked him if they smelled that, and they said they did but couldn't figure out where it was coming from. I speed walked all around the deck surveying for the source of the stink, and the other off-stand guard was searching as well, scrunching his nose. And some of the patrons at the pool were looking around and pinching their noses, suspiciously in high concentration by the kiddie pool. And then I saw it. In the kiddie pool and in one of the filters was a diaper. And upon further inspection, there was a 3-year-old little guy bare bottom splashing around the pad with 10 other kids having the time of his life. I immediately blew my whistle for everyone to get out and told one of my coworkers to deal with the kid and try to find the parents while I called the supervisor and quietly called in a code brown, which is what it's called. I see 2 of my coworkers with the little boy, some wet wipes and a towel, desperately searching for the parents in charge of little Dennis the Menace. And in my peripheral vision, I see 2 beet red adults storming over to my coworkers. At the same time, their parents unleashed a fury onto them, screaming at them for not watching the kid and making sure he went to the bathroom, saying they were neglecting him, and screaming at my coworker for encouraging their son to humiliate himself by wiping himself off with wet wipes on the pool deck. They brought him to a corner so he had a little privacy, though they probably should have taken him to the bathroom / his parents first. Meanwhile, the poopy kid starts crying, as a 3-year-old who sees his parents yelling and angry does, and his parents holler at the other 2 kids and grab their stuff. The family leaves in a huff, both older kids walking out all ashamed, with the mom carrying the sniffy, poopy 3-year-old who is now sucking down a juice box back to the car. The supervisor gets there about 5 minutes after they left, fishes the dirty diaper out of the pool, and tells us we can go home and he'll deal with it. This isn't the worst story, and I'm sure the parents were just embarrassed that the kid decided to take off his diaper in the pool and run around naked in front of God and everyone, but how exactly is it our fault that your kid dropped a deuce in the pool while you weren't watching him? Side note, regular diapers aren't allowed for this exact reason, but the kid came on with swim shorts on originally. Not sure where they went, but I suspect that was what my supervisor found out later at the time. Anyways, thanks for listening. Bro, do they realize it's not the lifeguard's job to babysit your kid? You guys were neglecting him. No, it's just not our job to make sure that your kid isn't pooping in the pool. I mean, obviously he's 3. I doubt he really knew what he was doing beyond just like going to the bathroom. But at some point, yeah, you got to keep your eye on your kid when he's in the pool. What type of bad parent is just like, you know what, 3-year-old, you go ahead, run out by the pool, jump into the deep end. I don't care. I'm going to read my book. Hope you don't poop in the pool or drown. Goodness gracious, dude. Being a lifeguard would be a very stressful job just because of how many stupid people assume you're going to be able to save their life like a Navy SEAL, or like you're a babysitter for some reason. Entitled dad gets mad that I won't let his kid bring an archery bow onto the plane. Several years ago, I was working in airport security as a way to support myself through school. I usually work all summers at this big European airport, which meant seeing people come and go on vacations, and lots of entitled people pass through. I'm a naturally happy person, so I didn't have too many problems, and my job was to work the different positions of the security line, and at the moment, I was working at the end where we'd encounter travelers and look through bags. You know how it goes. And there's me, a dad, and a kid in the story. So I'm doing my job, pushing the bags to the end, when the X-ray operator showed me a container with an archery bow just lying there. Not in a bag, just out in the open. So I take the container and wait at the end of the line, and I see a man in his 40s and a girl maybe 10, 12 years old. And they approach me, and I ask if it's theirs, and the man nods and tries to grab the bow. I pulled the container out of the way and told him it's not allowed in the cabin of the plane, and therefore he has a few options. The dad looks stunned and starts to laugh like I'm joking, and I look at him and tell him seriously, it's considered a weapon and is not allowed. He gets upset and says it's only for his daughter and it's a souvenir, and to be honest, it looked like a cheap bow, but it was about the same height as the girl, and I would be fired on the spot if I let it through since it looked completely functional. It would be easy to prove too, since every crevice of the security hall is camera monitored and my team leader was just opposite me. I mean, if a kid came in with an obvious toy bow, I would have never stopped it. But it's a large wooden bow, so I repeat that it didn't matter. It's a weapon, even if it's for your daughter. The kid also heard me this time, and you'd not believe how fast she starts crying. I mean, she's crying her eyes out, shouting at me in a different language in a matter of seconds. And the dad chimes in and says, "Now look what you did. My daughter's crying because of you. You're a witch and an evil person. There aren't arrows. What is she gonna do?" I tell him firmly that you're responsible for following travel rules, and if you're trying to break them, you have two options. Either I snap it in half and you find a way to check it in, because it's not allowed in the cabin. The kid is crying louder than ever, and I don't understand her words, but it sounds like insults. I pay her no mind and look at the dad, and he keeps trying to tell me there's no arrows, and I have to explain to him that there are other people on the flight, and having a weapon in the open on a plane, no matter the kind, will cause issues. As everyone knows, people tend to be nervous about flying being contained in a cabin thousands of meters up in the air. He calls me evil a few more times, and by this time I've had it, so I tell him, look, it's unacceptable to talk to me like that. You're the one trying to break air laws and hurling insults. You do realize this behavior prompts me to not allow you through security and thus your flight. I did have the power to rip his tickets in half, but did not say it directly as people tend to not like to hear it. The dad simmered down a bit and looks at the kid and then at me and asks how he should go about checking it in. It sounds like he's given up, so I politely explain he'd need a bag and to go to the check-in desk of the company he's flying with. He tells me he has no bag, and I inform him there's a store where they actually sell it a few minutes away, and he'd probably have to pay 60 euros to actually check the bag in. He looks real surly and thinks for a moment while I hold the bow and keep the flow going in the line. He asks me for the bow and leaves where he came from, dragging the kid behind him while she shrieks. About a half hour later, they come through with no bags. You see, it looks like he went ahead and bought a large piece of luggage, 100 to 120 euros, put a single bow in it, and paid the check-in fee. They see me from the beginning of the line and switch lines so to not meet me again. And when they get to the gates, I saw the little girl looking at me real smug, and all I could think was, dang, this kid's gonna be a handful when she grows up. Is it really that hard to not bring weapons on a plane? Is it really worth the risk just so little princess could pretend to be Katniss Everdeen? Man, I'm glad I quit that job. You know, there's just certain things that I feel like we just can't really complain about the rules on, and I feel like the whole no weapons on the plane rule is one of those things we shouldn't complain about. Yes, we understand it's probably a bow with no arrows, but it's the security guard's job to not let any weapons on the plane. I'm just saying, man, wouldn't you be annoyed if you found out the TSA security agent was using discretion and there were a bunch of weapons on the plane you were on? I don't know, I kinda like the fact that they follow the rules, and on top of it, dude would 100% get fired. I think airports are one of the most filmed places on the planet. Let me just let this bow through security. My boss is never gonna find out about it. It's not like I'm constantly under surveillance. My mom acts like a Karen and loses free food. I used to tell this story all the time because it was so insanely dumb and weird, but I had never posted it anywhere, so here I am. My mother is and always has been kind of a jerk, but in really unpredictable ways. Like you never knew what was going to trigger the Karen neurons in her brain. This story is decades old now, but back in the 90s when I was 10 or 12, my moms would sometimes buy me Portillo's for dinner. It's a Chicago suburban thing. Really great Italian beef and hamburgers, that sort of thing. And this story happened one of the times we ordered in their drive-thru. It had been a long day, and I was so hungry that the whole menu sounded delicious. I was stuck debating between the thing I always order and some new item that was on their menu. My mother was yelling at me to order, so I just said to get the sandwich I always order, and that was that. We're driving home, and I start to dig in through the bag to get my fries, and I say, oh, they gave me the other sandwich. And that was the wrong thing to say. And from the driver's side, you just heard the Karen neurons firing. They what? It's fine, I really wanted to try this anyways. They gave you the wrong order? What? It's not a big deal. I'll eat it. Let's just go home. Then she lost her composure and started cursing and shouting and pulled a U-turn in the middle of the road, which was terrifying since my side of the car was facing oncoming traffic, so my self-preservation instincts kept in and I kept quiet. She floored it back to the restaurant like a total psycho, and when we got there, she demanded I come in with her. I don't want to. You're acting crazy and I just want to eat. She called me useless and yanked the food away since I refused to come with her, and she went into the restaurant without me, and I just sat in that weird silence you feel after you've been screamed at. It felt like 15 minutes passed before she came back, sat in the car dead quiet, and I can tell something's wrong because she hasn't cussed or bragged about being right yet. She's just not mad. Now she's embarrassed. She looked at me and told me in exact details what happened in the restaurant in a tone of voice like she was shaming me, and I was about to feel really bad when she was done with her story. I'm gonna tell the story now, but here's the thing you gotta remember. I didn't go in with her. She could have made up any story to shame me or whatever, but she told me this one. According to her version of events, she stormed past all the lines, threw my bag of food at the cashier, and demanded a manager do something because she had been inconvenienced. She told them all how this was unacceptable because her son would never eat this and we deserved better treatment. The manager comes up and takes the bag. And now remember, this is my mother's retelling of the story. The manager reaches in the bag and pulls out the wrong sandwich, which was the one we hadn't ordered, the one I was thinking about trying but didn't. Then, underneath it, he took out the Italian beef. Their drive-thru staff had heard me struggling to make my order, and just to be nice, they had made both sandwiches and gave me one free of charge. The manager apologized to my Karen of a mother for the inconvenience and threw out the free sandwich in front of her and ordered her to get out of the store. I still don't understand why she truthfully told me a story of her being a jerk to people and expected it to guilt me when I was begging for her not to do it. I don't even understand why she told me that, at all. You could have lied, and I would have never known what a terrible person you've been. Why? In the unlikely event that someone who was there that day reads this, thank you so much for the sandwich. I'm really sad I didn't get to try it, but you helped me shame my mother publicly and got thrown out for a good cause. Sorry I couldn't stop her, but how do you even reason with someone like this when you're 12? Basically, a very nice restaurant employee gave me a free sandwich, but my mom can't tolerate mistakes and ripped into the manager before getting thrown out and publicly shamed. Dude, what? She didn't check the rest of the bag? You would think that, if you pulled out the wrong sandwich before you go in and start demanding and screaming at the manager, you would check the rest of the bag, make sure it was actually a mistake. My goodness, imagine screaming and throwing food at somebody that had tried to be nice and give you a free sandwich. No wonder she came out embarrassed. I am shocked she told it to you. That would have been something I swallowed and never admitted to anyone else ever again. The day I screamed at a manager for doing something nice. Your mom sounds like an absolute handful, would not have enjoyed growing up with that, so I'm glad you got out of there at least. My aunt wants me to ditch my university exams to attend her son's wedding. My aunt is my mom's older sister. I'm not that close to her, but my cousin, his sister, me, and my sister are all pretty close. Since my mom is a younger sister, my aunt does not think that most of her opinions or anything she helps my aunt do is valid. If my mom helps her, it's her duty towards my aunt because they're siblings, but I'm pretty sure that she won't help us or my sister at my wedding, considering when my parents were literally broke and had to admit to my sister, she didn't help neither monetarily nor emotionally. There are stories I could go on and on about, but this one is specific. She always says that her childhood was traumatic. Now, I don't want to denounce her trauma, but every time any of us grandkids say anything good about our grandparents, lo and behold, she has a list ready of how my grandma was wrong and the worst parent ever for making her do chores when she was 10. My grandma was busy saving her kids from an alcoholic grandpa and worked and saved for the family. Anyways, I was the one who told her to stop going on a tirade every time I try to reminisce about my grandparents with the siblings. I was the one who saw my grandma as she took her last breath, and since then she's been on a rampage of taunts and insults. She never liked me from the beginning, but this made things worse, and yesterday, as she and my cousin came over to my house, we discussed his wedding, and I informed both of them that even though the schedule hadn't been released, it's possible I have exams on the days of the pre-wedding ceremonies and actual wedding taking place, and thus I most likely won't be able to be a part of it, since these were university exams, not the internal ones that colleges manage. My cousin was disappointed but understanding, whereas my aunt, she went off. She ranted about how disrespectful that was, and I told her I can't do anything. I've never said that I won't help her with other things, and since the wedding and other ceremonies are out of the city, it'd be impossible for me to be there and do my exams at the same time. She called me an idiot, R-word, and many nasty things that I haven't gotten out of my head. She called me a burden on my family, and she also said I was probably faking the exam scenario because I wanted to screw around or something when my mom started defending me. I've always been on the above average spectrum of academics, and on the other hand, my cousins and sisters always got the highest marks and grades. I was, however, enrolled into the school for gifted students. In the end, my cousin, my sister, and my mom teamed up to defend me, but she still screamed at me at the top of her lungs, and my father had enough and told her to leave. I wish it ended there, but of course it didn't. She told my cousin and sister that I told her to get out of the house because she expressed she was disappointed that I couldn't come to my male cousin's wedding. My female cousin lives in the US and her family is obviously her first source of information, and she texted me to get my side and apologized when her male cousin told her what happened. My aunt also has a nasty habit of telling every relative about our quarrels, and it eventually made its way around, who thankfully knew better than to believe her BS. What did she want you to do? Call up the university and be like, hey, I know you guys got these planned out, it's our graduation exams, can you guys just delay it? I have a super important wedding to attend. I don't think that's really how it works. You know, I think even high school exams, it'd be annoying to try to get it moved, but you really can't miss a university exam. And believe it or not, I know weddings are important, right? But I don't know why everyone acts like if you're not at somebody's wedding, it's the biggest deal to ever exist. You can still be friends and, you know, related to your cousin, whether or not you're at his wedding. What? Oh, you weren't at my wedding, so therefore we're never allowed to interact again in any capacity? That would be a little bit bizarre. Anyways, guys, I think that's gonna do it for the video. Hopefully you enjoyed. If you did, I'd really appreciate you taking a second to press the like button. Let me know in the comment section down below what you thought of the video. And of course, subscribe if you're new. If you want to do me a big favor, down in the description, I made a playlist of the Reddit videos for you guys to check out. If you need something to listen to while you're doing homework, playing video games, whatever, be sure to check that out. But thank you all so much for watching this video of the Entitled Parents series. Don't get anyone pregnant. If you do, make sure they're hot, and hopefully I'll see you guys next time. I'm out. Peace.